Morning, church. There have been critics who claim for more than 2,000 years that the Bible is just the writing of men and can't be trusted. I'm going to give you one of their claims today, as well as proof and show you that the Bible can be trusted in all ways. The question that people will claim is, did the Bible get the mustard seed wrong? In Matthew 13:31 and 32, it says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in the field, and though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree." But some point out that today the smallest seed found to date is not the tiny mustard seed, which is extremely small. It's just a little bit bigger than a grain of sand, but the microscopic vanilla orchid seed, which can only be really seen with a microscope. Was Christ wrong when he said the mustard seed was the smallest of all seeds? The simple answer is no, due to context. The story or parable Jesus was telling was one of agrarian farmers of his day could comprehend. In truth, the smallest seed which they planted, which was the focus of the story, at that time and still today, is the mustard seed. The vanilla orchid seed will not even be perceived until the invention of the microscope, nor was it indigenous to the Middle East, but to the Americas. And Christ was not there to give a lesson on future botany about a seed invisible to the naked eye, in a hemisphere they did not even know about, but to teach these people about faith. Further, not the Hebrews nor anyone of their region could have known of the vanilla orchid, since it was indigenous to Central America and not the Middle East. Thus, the mustard seed was the smallest seed the Hebrews, who Jesus was talking to, could have knowledge of. Finally, the statement of the smallest seed on earth, sown, is a truthful one for then and today, since new plantings and setting up of orchid or vanilla orchards by the Aztecs in ancient times and today is done by transplanting cuttings of the vine, not by sowing the microscopic vanilla orchid seed. On the other hand, the background science on the vanilla orchid seed is fascinating proof of a designer and creator. Unlike other orchids, the vanilla planifolia vine needs to be pollinated while it's blooming in order to produce vanilla. And its blooms only one day a year. A special variety of minuscule bees and hummingbirds, only found in the Americas, and orchids were made to work together for this purpose, his purpose to create something sweet. The vanilla plant can only be pollinated by a small flea-sized bee called the Mexican melipona bee, or a very specialized variety of minuscule hummingbirds. The Mexican melipona bee is the only insect capable of pollinating the orchid. Both the bee and the hummingbird gain sustenance from this plant. Both are pre-programmed to identify the one day of pollination, know how to unfold the flap of the orchid to gain sustenance, and in the process get themselves covered in orchid pollen. They then fly the same day to other orchids and unfold the flap and pollinate them. This symbiotic relationship looks designed by a creator, since it simply had to have been. There's no rational, naturalistic explanation for how such a very specialized, mutually dependent species could have evolved. To underscore the point of this being an incredibly special God-created symbiotic relationship, we have the story of the Spanish conquistador, Hernan Cortez, who caused the fall of the Aztecs in Mexico. He loved vanilla when it was discovered in the Americas by the Spanish, and brought back vanilla plants from Mexico to Spain. For 300 years, the Spaniards and other Europeans grew the orchid plant from these cuttings, but no vanilla beans were produced, since neither the specially designed bees nor the hummingbird existed in Europe to pollinate this very specially designed flower. Some will argue that Jesus made an erroneous statement in saying that the mustard seed was the smallest of all seeds, showing his fallibility and that of the Bible, thus suggesting neither to be divine. In truth, he was relating a simple example which the farmers of the time could relate to, and in close analysis we find his statement to be factually true, in that the mustard seed was and is today the smallest seed sown by farmers, which is what the verse says. Christ's reference to the mustard seed as the smallest of all seeds thus does not reveal his ignorance of smaller seeds. The master teacher gives us lessons for life all throughout Scripture. If we will only listen, his words are true and can be trusted for life. I hope this example, both of the Bible's verified ability to be true at all times, and this example of God's symbiotic relationship, specially designed to show his signature, his handiwork, uplift you today. And we're out.